And welcome
Thank
to the
you.
Middle East Forum Speaker Webinar Series. I'm Stacey Roman, and I will be moderating this discussion today. We're pleased to have Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, columnist for London's Telegraph and a contributor to the BBC and New York Post, join us to discuss France and Islam. Is something changing? Ms. Moutet will speak for 15 minutes and open up for questions. Should you wish to ask a question, please use the Q&A box located at the bottom of your screen to type out your question. And now, with no further ado, I'll turn the discussion over to Anne-Elisabeth Moutet.
Good afternoon. It's barely afternoon where you are, and it's late afternoon where we are. I was asked a series of questions essentially about France's fight against terrorism and about our president's commitment to fight against what he has called separatist Islamism, leaving himself open to a great deal of criticism around the Anglosphere mostly. All sorts of newspapers and columnists in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Politico, the Financial Times, and other prestige media have accused him of being Islamophobic, racist, in need of an education, etc. And so the question is, does he mean it? How do the French take this lack of understanding of what he meant from supposedly our allies, and what will this change? So I think what you first need is a little bit of a reminder of what caused all this. First of all, a reminder that France is a country that has known terrorism for a very long time. We had terrorist attacks during the 60s, as the end of the Algerian war, and afterwards caused bombings in Paris and other places from both the Algerian independentists and those people who represented the French former colonists, people who'd been there for 2 centuries, forced to come back. We then had terrorism in the 70s, in the late 60s and in the 70s, that was Palestinian mostly. And then we started getting also Iranian terrorism as soon as Ayatollah Khomeini came back from exile, where he had been received by France. That didn't help. We also had terrorism from various leftist groups also at that time. We started knowing Libyan terrorism. All of this was using proxy terrorists to make some points on the Middle East case. In the 1990s, France was one of the main hinterlands of the civil war in Algeria. The civil war in Algeria lasted from 1992 to 2000, and it killed about 250,000 people. People don't hear much about it. They ought to. The government, which is by no means entirely blameless, decided to halt the elections before the Islamists party was scheduled to win it, and there was pushback, horribly so, with entire villages being slaughtered, with both parties not behaving terribly well, and it left Algeria a bruised country with still the same government in place that has been put in place 40 years ago. A great deal of terrorism was waged on French soil, including plane hijackings, deadly bombings in Paris, in one metro stations and other. And then we got more bombings after the 9/11, and the phenomenon that now everyone unfortunately has become familiar with. So the French justice and French defense forces are very much aware of the danger of terrorism. They're also very knowledgeable, and it's knowledge we acquired in blood, we paid for in blood. With a result that there is knowledge, there's always been knowledge in France about who are the terrorists and how that happens, and how there are ecosystems that have developed in some segments of the Salafist and Muslim Brotherhood leaning parts of the Muslim minority in France. And that is by no means not at all the French Muslim community. The French Muslim community is about 6 or 7 million people. Almost half of these people come from Berber and Kabyle backgrounds in Morocco and mostly in Algeria. And those were the people who were being slaughtered by the Islamists during the the Algerian Civil War of '92. So they are people who absolutely want to integrate, have integrated pretty well, and in general distrust the Islamists. In all this context, came the question of Charlie Hebdo. Now, you probably remember that Salman Rushdie 30 years ago was accused of blasphemy and insulting Islam with his magical realist novel, The Satanic Verses. And at that time, everybody supported him. Nobody said anything except that having one mullah in Tehran declare a fatwa condemning him to death for all good believers with anything else than madness and criminal. Fast forward 30 years, and a number of Islamist personalities have described the French Muslim cartoons as being the same thing as the Satanic Verses. You can decide that your taste leans more towards the beautiful English prose of Salman Rushdie than the aggressive and funny cartoons of Charlie Hebdo, but that is not the point. The point is that there are foreign elements who then have supporters in our countries, and these supporters feel entitled to behead people and kill people just because they don't like something that has been drawn or written on paper. And the French are very much behind this government. This government is embattled for other reasons. Emmanuel Macron is not terribly popular these days. People question his handling of COVID and other things, but on that specific instance, the French population is behind President Macron. President Macron has actually been very careful when he made his speech on separatism about 4 weeks ago to separate the vast majority of Muslims then from those elements who do not want to live within French society, but live literally in kinds of enclaves in which the laws of the Republic are defied, the law of the land is defied, and the kind of talk and of actions, including support, logistical support to terrorist attacks, is encouraged, winked on, encouraged, and sometimes actually practiced. This is what the speech meant. And the speech said, in effect, we are going to be a lot more careful and we're not going to accept this. Now, it wasn't Macron's position that the word Islamophobia is actually an extremely useful weapon in that you accuse people of racism, if you can have racism for a belief, and call it Islamophobia, and then you shut up any kind of criticism of that extremist aspect of Islam. And that is what immediately was put into gear. It was put into gear by two leaders. The main one is Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is the Turkish president. It's very important to see this. Turkey has ambitions. Turkey right now is waging or helping in 7 different conflicts, from Syria to places in Iraq, to helping the Azeris against the Armenians. In Libya, where Turkey is present, has got boots on the ground and is effectively pushing one of the 2 generals vying for power in Libya. Turkey tried to push back against Greece, an age-old enemy, and attacked Greece boats, ships, and Greece is a member of the European Union. Turkey isn't. Turkey is only a member of NATO. And President Macron said that Greece and the European Union must be protected against attacks, and that the French would send ships to help a sister nation being attacked. That alarmed Erdogan to the point when he decided that Macron would be his punching ball, basically. And he found in the republication of the Charlie Hebdo caricatures that provoked the killing in 2015 of 8 cartoonists and editors at Charlie Hebdo, a good reason to attack France and say that, insult Macron in stupid schoolyard bullying words, which are just words, but then also encourage the fact that people might be attacked if they either supported Macron or supported Macron's attitude about having one nation under the broad umbrella of the legal law, the law of the Republic. The caricatures had not been republished by Charlie Hebdo just for fun. The court case against the killers, or what remained of the killers, the ones who hadn't been shot down by police while doing their killing, was reopened, and the magazine decided that because this was a fight for freedom of expression, because the first time that they published those caricatures in 2006, they had been defended by all political leaders, left and right, of French major parties, it would be making a point that freedom of speech still existed today as it did 15 years ago. The reactions were not as good, and the reactions were especially not good in countries that are French allies. This is the entire context for the current situation in which France is being reviled by, first of all, by Turkey and Turkey's proxies, second, by Pakistan, the current Pakistan leader, the Prime Minister Imran Khan, a former English Pakistani playboy and very good cricketer, decided also to say that any Muslim who wanted to fight back against France was entitled, which is also a call for murder. But these people also have points. They've paid for mosques, they've subsidized some networks, and therefore they have access to communities that are being separated from the rest of the national community in France. And this is how a French teacher, Samuel Paty, was beheaded because he was giving a civics lesson that was mandated by the curriculum on why caricatures exist in the French cultural tradition, and why anything that is written down is not something that entitles you to kill people. To simplify things, this is where we're at now. Macron suddenly has taken in the fact that France has been actually a battleground for at least two or three decades. From the moment of 9/11, you can basically say that the whole fight was being first waged by luminaries on both sides, and then there was a creeping influence of some of the worst elements of Islamism, not Islam, but Islamism, in French Muslim communities. This, I would say, and we've just seen it recently, was aided and abetted by what America has got to offer as sort of finest and most expensive education, institutes of learning, and newspapers, because it's become very fashionable to be quote unquote anti-colonialism. It's very fashionable to denounce supposed Islamophobia or racism in anyone. And France, which has extremely different political traditions and older political traditions than America, and does not consider her citizens are each belonging to a specific community. We consider our citizens as all being French. And we also consider that there are things that you don't do in your own nation, such as say that the nation's law do not apply to you, that you're allowed to marry several women, including minor women or women who don't want to marry you, and stuff of that kind. This is what we're basically waging war on. The current climate is become extremely strange to us because recently there have been a series of articles misrepresenting Emmanuel Macron's speeches and to a large extent painting a target on, if not the president, who's well protected, but French citizens in France and abroad for Islamophobia, for intolerance, for of course systemic racism, because that's the new thing, and other things. The question is, will Macron hold fast? Macron was not really somebody who specialized in this in his studies. He knows lots about economics. He knows a great deal of things because he's a bright man. Islamism was not a danger on his radar until facts and murders brought it to him. Is he committed? He started passing laws, putting laws to parliament that give more means to anti-terrorists in France, and also he started dissolving some associations that were very clearly advocating murder and advocating illegal things. And my hope is that, and he's running for re-election, the election is in 1.5 years' time, in May of 22. He has massive support in this and no other thing, and my hope is that at least his sense of self-preservation as a leader, as a political leader, will help. Something which I think, from all accounts and from contacts I've had, is quite genuine. He is absolutely horrified that there is no way of getting your point across to some people, because they may understand what you want to say, but they absolutely disapprove of your being able to say it. And they say it with bombs. So that's the situation as it is in France. As I said, we are talking here not about a country that's suddenly discovering all this. We have known terrorism for a long time. We have actually the expertise in France to know the networks. French, whatever the French government was saying about other things in the United States, the French always had extremely good working relationship on anti-terrorism and financing of terrorism, and all sorts of efforts with America and with other Western nations. So it's not as if Macron, having discovered that this was a major issue, was coming blind on this. He actually is well equipped. So the answer to the question that had been asked in the beginning is, I am cautiously hopeful that yes, France means it this time. And now I will welcome questions from anyone, especially those who think I haven't made sense.
All right, thank you so much. That was a great rundown of the history as well as what's going on today. Do you have a sense of how, does Macron believe he can isolate the Islamist ideology in the guise of a religion?
I think France is a country that always has had institutions to talk for religions. France is a country that is secular, and most other countries do not understand secularism, laïcité, and of course laïcité has now been sort of made into one of those sort of dangerous words by people who would like to attack France, and they say that it's racist. But French secularism is only understandable if you know about the French Revolution, and if you know that we had an established religion, which was Catholicism. The king was anointed with the holy oils when he was being crowned at the Cathedral of Reims, and it was the state religion. It's a religion that, for instance, Voltaire fought against when a Protestant was executed for practicing Protestantism in the 1700s. We fought our way towards freedom of religion. The French Revolution granted freedom of religion right at the beginning. It was not anti-religion per se. It was not against God per se. There was a religion of the supreme being, which was for a while enacted in France during the French Revolution. And the point is that religion, the France was divided in three orders: the nobility, the clergy, and the people. When every French citizen, no longer subjects, were made equal, the church was seen, especially in the 19th century, which was reacting against the revolution and Napoleon, the church was seen as the voice of reaction, literally so. They were reacting against a movement, that revolutionary movement. So there was a history where you had on one side the atheist republic, and on the other side, the forces of religion, and of course they were monarchist, because monarchy was the monarch, the secular head of the church. And the result was eventually, when that battle was waged, it was waged at the turn of the 19th, 20th century. In 1905, there was a law that passed that enshrined the neutrality of the French state in the modern version of laïcité, secularism. And what laïcité has become essentially, and lots of religious groups were expelled from the country for several decades, and then they came back, and it's now very much appeased with the Catholic Church. But what laïcité means is every religion is protected. You're allowed to practice your religion. It is part of your personal freedom. It is private. It is not something that belongs to the state. The state has no opinion on religions. The state will protect the practice of religion, but what we guarantee for all citizens is the neutrality of the public space. And that means that civil servants are not supposed to advocate any kind of religion in any way, that children at school are not supposed to advocate religion or behave according to the precepts of any kind of religion at school when they're minors, and they're entitled to the French national curriculum and to be exposed to a completely neutral education. When they're university students, where they are minor, the mixed majority, if they're Muslim women, they're allowed to wear the headscarf, which they're not allowed to wear in high schools, precisely because then it is their decision, it's personal. School is supposed to create young French citizens and to make them, I will say, grandly commune in the ethos of the French state. So that's how it works. And it is very much misunderstood in many ways. And on this basis, we had some articles had to be pulled by places like the Financial Times or websites like Politico because they were riddled with inaccuracies. And at one stage, you could see corrections every half hour being added on the websites about what was in the pieces. And eventually the pieces were pulled. And then, of course, people said that Macron had threatened dangerously journalists. And honestly, I mean, we don't threaten dangerously journalists. People who threaten dangerously journalists kill them. And we've seen this happen. But he had mentioned the fact that there were inaccuracies. Macron himself went on to Al Jazeera, which is to some extent the lair of the beast, because it's the state channel of Qatar, and Qatar, unlike the Saudis, who've seen some of the errors of their ways, the Qataris fund terrorism in various places. And he spoke very convincingly in English with an Al Jazeera interviewer to explain. I'm not sure that he got himself understood by everyone, but certainly his message went across and was aired by Al Jazeera, and he felt that it was something that you did, and this is how he's being said to threaten people. I don't know whether I should be answering questions that are actually on the Q&A list. Should we do that? Or, yeah?
I'll be jumping in.
I'm going to go around this because at some stage I will stop, but Ken Miller says, do I have any advice for your president to be so that the United States can avoid making the same mistakes that France has made in regards to Islam and immigrants entering the United States? I think actually this doesn't make much sense because America doesn't have the same structure of immigration as France has. And immigration comes from places that have a common history with you or are on the other side from a border to you. It's pretty difficult to get to America on a small boat from, say, Afghanistan or other places. It's relatively easy to go from those places to Turkey or to Lebanon and then get to Greece, which is absolutely next door, and then walk. So the structure and our history, especially for France, we had colonies in Africa for a long time, and therefore we have normally so, and many of them have made massive contributions to the nation. The first Black académicien français was a man who also became president of the Republic of Senegal, Léopold Sédar Senghor. We have other well-known writers, doctors, etc., who come from Muslim immigration. That's not really a problem. So on that question, and I've just seen it disappear. I don't know whether those questions disappear when they're answered. Yes, they do. I don't think you can you don't have the same problems in terms of Islam. I think there are things about Islam that America should be careful of, and that's basically who finances the mosques, who sends money, especially foreign countries. And I think it's much too easy, especially through proxies in America. And I expect actually the Department of the Treasury, who are no spring chickens, actually have a fair idea of how the money gets in. And I think, yes, people should be allowed to practice Islam. America is a bit different from other countries, but certainly you should be watching schools and watch whether schools are teaching dangerous things. And that is where you differ from our schools. We really have a national curriculum and a very top-down administered country. And I think there are people who are allowed to homeschool their kids if they want their kids not to learn about evolution in America. And, that's the way you guys do it. The kids who don't believe in evolution do not go out with machetes. And I would say that the kids who learn things about radical Islam do not go out, thank God, with machetes either. But that's something that the French can do and that you can't do. You can't you refuse to teach your kids evolution in France. And many of you will say that's not freedom, and I'll live with that. But in terms of follow the money, follow the funders of people who are in Congress pushing some bills, follow the lobbyists, and that will defang some of the unpleasant things. So that's one question. These things are sort of behaving in the sort of chat window in a strange way. An anonymous attendee says, the concept of laïcité has taken the proportions of a state religion. Is it realistic? Oh God, well, convert or die. Well, that was in the Middle Ages, people. We've all changed, actually. I would like you to think about dentists and plumbing in the Middle Ages and realize that many things in life change over 800 years. And so I will please stop talking about crusaders, it's exhausting. But laïcité is not a state religion. Laicité, however, is a constitutive tenet of the French outlook on life, and we're entitled to our, constitutive tenets on life. This is our freedom, that's our culture. I believe in multiculturalism, and I would like every culture to be respected, including the French one. That's, to me, that's the point. French Muslim, Macron is not going to change French Muslim hearts and minds. However, not Macron, I mean, most French Muslims actually believe in laïcité. My very nice, hardworking Moroccan grocer, whom I could point to you if this were a laptop, in the street, has all 5 kids of his in a Catholic school because it's a good school, and the state school next to him was not very good. And he can live with that. He does the Ramadan. He's a devout Muslim. He has no problems with it. We live in a different environment. Everybody knows that the religious orthodoxy of valeurs républicaines, God, I mean, yeah, well, I know, I can see why that question is being asked by somebody who wishes to remain anonymous very bravely. I bet you have a pseudonym on Twitter as well. Republican values, not Republican Party, La République, and the values of the Republic are, the values that we believe in. And I'm really sorry that offends your feeling. I think I'll stop answering this one. Why haven't President Macron, French citizens, acknowledged the fact that Islam is a political ideology and not a religion? You can have a political ideology and be a religion at the same time, and considering, take various denominations of Protestants, take the Orthodox and the Catholics and everything, lots of different things in Christianity as well. And I understand that if you've got two Jews together, you've got 3 opinions. And you should hear, I mean, I bet you've heard conservative rabbis being talking about the religious rabbis and the reverse. So conceptions about religion are very complicated, and I'm not going to go into this. Parts of Islam is a way of life and a law. Jewish law was a law at one stage, and then we went touring for a long time. But still, Islam is not just a political ideology and not a religion. Some of Islam, a great deal of Islam is a religion. Some Islam is a political ideology and it lives with the state. And some Islam is nothing but it's up to them. I don't think we can say blanket, and I'm going to finish on this one too because there are more. Okay, isn't there a legislation that prevents abusing religions like the anti-Semitism religion? Oh God, anti-Semitism is not abusing religion. Kyrie, I really appreciate your signing your name. That's really nice. So we can talk in good faith. Anti-Semitism is abusing Jews and defaming Jews and saying that they are bad people. I think legislation for that is excellent. I think there should be legislation, actually there is legislation, thank God, on abusing Muslims who are persons. If you want to say that you think Judaism is a stupid religion, you are absolutely free to do it. You can say that Catholicism is stupid and the French philosophers did it. And if people want to say, look, I think the tenets of Islam are stupid, it's not people, it is an idea. If you want to say Muslims are stupid, that should be actionable. Well, actionable is not really an insult. If you say that Muslims should be exterminated, you yourself should be put to rest in a place with a roof over your head for a long time. And that's all I'm going to say on this one. How do other EU countries feel about Macron's comments regarding extremist Islam? Well, Europe is one continent. Passing our borders because of Schengen is extremely easy. Therefore, most European countries have seen the effects of truly extremist Islam, and therefore there's a great deal of understanding on all sides. We actually had messages from President Macron over the Samuel Paty's beheading. We've had messages in various cases. There's a great deal of collaboration through Interpol on fight against terrorism. So most EU countries understand, and of course EU countries in Eastern Europe feel very strongly about this and support Macron. Is there any truth to reports of so-called no-go areas in France, Muslim enclaves where police can't or will not go? That's an interesting question. And when I lived in New York, which was 30 years ago, there were definitely areas in the Bronx and in the South Bronx and in Central Park at night where it was a no-go area if you knew what's good for you. Admittedly, the police could go there. The police didn't always like to go there, but the police could go there. We've got those now, and I think we have not learnt the lessons in New York. I'm not sure I have any feelings about Rudy Giuliani as a lawyer, but as a mayor, he was a bloody good mayor, and I used to live in New York at that time. That's all I can say about this. And before him, you had Ed Koch, who was wonderful. And there was an effort in changing policing in New York that made it possible for there not to be no-go zones. And a great deal of the no-go zones in France have got less to do with Islam and a great deal to do with complete chaos and problem with rule of law. If you send enough police in those places, yes, they can go in. If you send 2 cops, things may happen to them, like stuff being thrown at them from the windows. It is not pleasing. It is not exactly no-go, but it is something that as a French voter, I would like my country to work on. And you know, when I was growing up in New York, we also wanted something to be done at the time. So let's just hope. Are the children grandchildren of the anti-Islamist
webinar though? Unfortunately, we reached the time limit for our
well, if you guys want more answers, I leave it to Stacey to see whether we can talk about this. Let me just have a look on all of this if I think there's a conclusion in 2 minutes. Does France support all I can say is we need allies in this. America should understand that there are many ways of being free democratic countries, and do not listen to people who want to divide us. Do not listen to people who say, look at them, they're hateful. Do not think that the American way is 100% the best way. Nothing is 100% the best way because we're not angels. So help us, think of us, support us, read French books because they're, you know, French literature because it's good. Goodbye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that we had to come to the close of our webinar. There were so many great.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mrs. Moutet,
Bye.
for being with us today. For our viewers, please be on the lookout for our weekly webinar offerings email coming out over the weekend. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks again.